Hi everyone, Mike here from Bikes by Mike with another cycling related video. So I'm back in the garage to talk to you about cycle computers. I've got my Cannondale Super 6 EVO mounted on the bike rack, so I can show you exactly what happened to my Garmin Edge 1030, how it broke, what the fixes are, and why I'm never buying a Garmin cycle computer ever again. Okay, let's get to it. So before I talk to you about this, just a brief comment about the 2023 Haute Dolomites race, because it was spectacular in many different ways. The week before the race, which was mid-August, Italy, France, a lot of Europe actually was hit with some massively hot weather. So I talked to some riders that came earlier in the race to prep for it, and every day was 30 to 35 degrees Celsius or above. So it was smoking hot, not just in the valleys, but at the mountaintops. Then about probably a day before the start of the race, the weather turned entirely. So the weather went from super hot to super cold temperatures. So for stage 1 and 2 of the race, they were expecting near 0 degrees Celsius temperatures at the top of the mountains and single digits or maybe low teens in the valley areas. And they were also expecting a lot of rain. So we were really preparing ourselves for some really hard days in the saddle. As it turned out, stage 1, which was supposed to be Umbrail and Stelvio, was shortened just to include the climb up the Passo Stelvio. On that day, we had snow at the top of Stelvio, so it was super cold, not just going up, but coming down, it was massively cold. Day 2 was just a little bit better in that there was no precipitation forecasted, but through the biggest climb, which is Passo Gavia, again, there was snow at the top. So ascending wasn't too bad, but descending the Gavia for me and for a lot of riders that day was easily the coldest day on the bike. So it was really challenging conditions for the first 2 days. And then amazingly, as the week went on, the weather warmed up. We got no more precipitation and generally had milder conditions. Stage 3, the time trial up Monte Bodoni, was probably the best weather we've had. Really mild temperatures, the sun was out. And after 2 really hard days on stage 1 and 2, it was fantastic. And stages 4 and 5 were also quite good as well. So fantastic race that started in Bormio in the northern Italian Alps, finished in the Dolomites. For me and for a lot of riders, I think it's some of the most beautiful riding we've done, even though it was some of the most brutal racing I've ever done. So that's it for the Dolomites. That's it for Haute. This isn't about Haute, so on to the main video. So what I have here is the Garmin Edge 1030 cycle computer that was released in 2017. It currently retails for $779.99 Canadian. It was superseded by the 1030 Plus, which was a minor change, a minor improvement to this model in 2020. And the current flagship version of the Garmin Edge is the 1040 Solar. And the 1040 Solar was released in 2022 and currently retails for $809.99. Bang. So I have my Garmin Edge 1030 mounted onto this RaceWare Garmin Encyclique Dual XL mount. XL mount is a larger, longer mount that fits the Garmin 1000 and above cycle computers. They sell a shorter one that is for the smaller Garmin cycle computers. So this RaceWare mount is actually the only one I have found that offers both the dual mount capability for the Garmin and the Cyclique, mounts under the handlebars, and is designed specifically for the Cannondale Save system bar, which is what this is, as well as the Cannondale Knot system bar. So compatible with both. And I like a lot of the RaceWare products. They're 3D printed in nylon, so they're quite durable, better than some of the cheap plastics you find. More on that later. And so has worked really well up until now. So the mount allows me to nicely attach my Cycleek Fly 12 Sport camera and light on the bottom, and then of course the Garmin mounts on the top, just like that. So a nice, compact, pretty sleek dual mount option. So now a quick word on how this Garmin 1030 broke during my Haute race. So it happened in stage 2, where I had just finished exiting a tunnel, descending the Gavia, and I hit something in the road. It wasn't something major, not something large enough that I'd worry it'd puncture a tire or damage a rim, but I hit something and I kind of feel a bit of force coming through the handlebars. And what happened is that the cycle computer, which was mounted properly onto the mount, literally just flew off the bike and crashed, and had to go back and retrieve it. Actually cracked the glass screen protector and made a bit of scuff marks on the cycle computer. Now, originally what I thought was that I had damaged the mount, which would have been a better scenario because, the mount is $20 or $30. I could replace the mount and all will be good. But as you can see here, what happened is that the mount was just fine. What had happened is that the wings on the quarter turn Garmin connector, which is connected to the unit itself, had both broken off. So the mount was fine, but now I had a quarter turn mount adapter on my Garmin 1030, which was broken and not easily replaceable. So onto that now. So I had read previously, before this incident happened, about these Garmin quarter turn mounts and other people complaining that these quarter turn mounts, which is just made out of plastic, so it doesn't appear to be that durable, and obviously not based on my experience, it's not that durable. The issue is that if that mount is damaged, that quarter turn mount isn't easily replaceable. And actually, if you go to the Garmin website, they have specific instructions on what happens if you damage this, and basically they're saying the only fix is to have the whole unit replaced. And they have a whole online process for doing this, which suggests to me that this probably happens fairly often. So you go in, enter your serial number, email address, some other information, and they will initiate the process for you to mail this in and for them to return a new unit to you, either a new unit or refurbished. But, and here's the but, after going through the process, I discovered that they charge you $217.50 Canadian to have this plastic piece replaced on the Garmin unit. So for me, that is basically the cost of a mid-range cycle computer. So there's no way I'm paying Garmin $217.50 to replace what, in my mind, is a poorly designed quarter turn mount. The other option you have, if you do damage this mount, is to order one of the third-party aftermarket mounts that has been specifically designed to deal with this type of breakage. And there's 2 companies that I know of right now that offer fixes for this. I haven't tried them out, so I'm not sure how good they are, but the installation isn't that easy, and to a certain extent, they appear to be a bit of a hack for fixing the Garmin 1030, which is less than ideal in my opinion. So for me, this was the last straw and has now convinced me to move away from the Garmin ecosystem. I've now had 4 Garmin Edge cycle computers, the 820, 1000, 1020, 1030, maybe something in between. And I've never been all that impressed with what you get for the money. And with the 1040 Solar now approaching $1,000 Canadian, it's just too much for what you get. So I've ordered the Hammerhead Crew 2. It's on order, should arrive in a couple weeks, and I'll give that a try and review it on a future episode of Bikes by Mike. What I have found is that Garmin over the years has turned into a massive marketing company and hasn't spent enough of their profits on product development. And if you're going to sell a flagship model, it has to be perfect in every way, especially if you're going to charge $1,000 for it. And I'm still surprised that after all these years, Garmin still has a low-res colored display that is, quite frankly, looks like a throwback from 20 years ago. Like, really, look at this thing. Is that the type of high-res display you'd expect on a flagship model? Yeah, that's not smartphone quality at all. So I'm going to give the Hammerhead a try. From what I've read, it looks and operates just as good or better than the Garmin. And right off the bat, I'm saving about $500. So why would I not give that a try? So I guess I have to say thank you to Garmin for causing this breakage and for giving me a really good reason to switch brands. No better reason than charging $217.50 to replace this poorly designed quarter turn mount. I know this issue isn't isolated to me, given all the comments you see on the internet and the fact that Garmin has their own kind of slick process for getting a refurbished replacement one if you break this. So if you've experienced similar issues to what I have here, please add it in the comments below. That's all I got for today, folks. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you're not a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe, as it allows me to produce more content for all of you. See you next time. Happy rolling.